And what's most outrageous is that it's totally lacking in evidence, because all of the deaths caused by terrorists on US soil since 9/11 have been caused by US citizens or residents. And the 9/11 attacks were caused by people from outside the US, but from none of those 7 countries. So not only is it prejudiced, it totally lacks any evidence.
Sure.
Thank you very much. I thank the honourable friend for making those very valid points. I continue. Last year, when we first debated a potential ban, Mr. Walker, in this very chamber, I went on public record and I said that I wanted Trump to come. I wanted him to visit Bradford West. I wanted to take him out for a curry. I invited him for a curry. I wanted him to see what contribution Muslims make to this country and to my constituency. I wanted him to meet real Muslims, not the ones he has invented for his own ends. I wanted him to walk down the street and meet people such as the Chief Superintendent, Mabs Hussain, who was born in my constituency. I wanted to take him to the school like Iqra Primary and meet a Muslim head teacher. And I wanted him to visit health professionals like Sahara and Lister Pharmacy and see Muslims on the front line of our healthcare service. I wanted him to see some of the tremendous businesses in my constituency being run by Muslims, providing jobs and growth, like Lala's, like Enkarn's, My Lahore's and many others. I wanted to show the world the cultural impact Muslims play in my constituency through things like the amazing Bradford Literature Festival that is run by 2 extraordinary Muslim women, the annual World Curry Festival organised by a Muslim man. But to do so now, Mr. Walker, now that he is president, will only reinforce and condone his actions, his divisive, racist and sexist messages. That is sadly what he stands for at this moment and what he represents. And this flies in the face of everything we stand for, everything we thought we shared. We cannot support what he's doing by offering him legitimacy. My honourable friend touched upon double standards. The difference in this conversation here is that the British people are aware of the human rights violations about the misogyny that happens when we offered a visit by the Chinese Premier. Such as pointing out all of that. We do not look to China for its record or advice and support on human rights records or on how to treat women. We do not do that. But we do look to America. We do look to the United States of America, the leader of the free world, to support us in those shared values. What this president does not represent is those shared values that belong to us, that belong to this house, that we have seen. You know, my children have even seen the movies where women have thrown themselves on these cobbles outside to get the right to vote in this country. We have seen what has happened with the civil rights movement. We cannot, where does this, when I spoke about this in the main chamber, I talked about the 3 steps, the first 3 steps to genocide as defined on Holocaust Memorial Day in their booklet. And I can tell you we're already on step 3. So when the Honourable Gentleman tells me, are we stopping World War III? Actually, what are we contributing to by allowing President Trump to continue in that rhetoric which divides people and tells us that the Muslims are the enemy, that the Muslims are the enemy within? That is me as a Muslim in this house. I am not an enemy to Western democracy. I'm part of Western democracy. I fought my election really hard. I fought against all them things, that bigotry, the sexism, the patriarchy, to earn my place in this house. By allowing Donald Trump a state visit and bringing out the crockery, the china, the red carpet, what we are doing is endorsing all those views, all those things that I fought hard against, and saying, do you know what, it's okay. So I absolutely thank the millions who have signed this petition. My heartfelt thanks to them, and I really, really do hope we do not honour this president.
Crispin Blunt.
This debate so energetically opened by the Honourable Gentleman for Newport West. He referred to our beleaguered Prime Minister, and I'm looking forward to the kind of authority she's going to exert when she's not quite so beleaguered. And I'm still puzzling over the meaning of his protozoan power, but I will come back to the power exercised by the President. But first of all, we should take a reality check. This invitation has been issued in the name of Her Majesty, and if we want to find a way of embarrassing her, withdrawing that invitation would be the quickest way about it. So we are left in a situation where formally the word of Her Majesty, but also that of the United Kingdom, is now engaged. Now let's get on to the realpolitik behind this. It is very likely that opening up the possibility of an invitation for a state visit secured our Prime Minister the first call on the newly elected President of the United States. And during the course of that visit, she got the incredibly important assurance around NATO, so expertly referred to by the chairman of the Defence Select Committee.
Honourable gentleman for giving way. I heard him being interviewed on Radio Scotland this morning, and he said on Radio Scotland what he's just said just now, that it was very likely that Theresa May had used the offer of a state visit to secure the first visit to Trump. Can he confirm what his source for that statement is?
No,
Crispin Blunt.
I'm simply using my own assessment of my own experience of my career as to how these matters are arranged, and therefore what might have happened. I'm happy to confirm I have no first-hand evidence of the discussions. So it's merely using my experience as to what might have happened. However, she secured that first visit, and she secured the undertaking about NATO of immense importance to the security of Europe. She got a reaffirmation of the special relationship by being the first foreign leader to visit him. And also the day before, you will notice she had a spectacularly successful visit to address the Republican caucus in Philadelphia. And here we need to understand what is going on. We are dealing with a president who is the first non-politician and the first non-serviceman to be elected to the office. He is definitively different. And in an exercise of pressing the right buttons to engage him, I think dangling a state visit in front of a half-Scottish president of the United States, whose mother had an immense attachment to the country, was a very successful use of the kind of soft power that the United Kingdom has. But as well as securing the undertaking around NATO, let's understand the checks and balances that this president will have to operate under. First of all, he is going to need to operate under the checks and balances that come from the Congress. And the Republican caucus in the Congress is going to be immensely important in that. And for our Prime Minister to have secured a place where she has an opportunity then to be, in effect, putting our case, which might also be aligned with the case of the State Department, the Pentagon, and the CIA into the White House, if the right honourable gentleman is brief, because this is out of injury time.
Continues to seriously underrate President Trump. The idea that this president is going to have things determined by anything other than his own interest and what he perceives the American interest to be is a mistake of such naivety that explains the fact that he managed to get into the White House in the first place.
Crispin Blunt.
Well, I would draw the right honourable attentions to the fact of what is actually happening as this president who is come from an area where he's not being disciplined in the requirements of our profession or the service profession, who is then issuing these undisciplined statements. What has he had to say about torture? That he will concede his judgment to that of his defence secretary. I was cheerfully told by LGBT friends of mine that he was about to rescind the employment protection for LGBT people in the United States. He didn't, as it happened. We've then seen what's happened in the row between his national security advisor and his vice president. Who won out? His vice president. And then if one looks at the terms of the immigration ban, that is being overturned by another element of the separation of powers in the United States by the judges. So we are seeing the development of this administration with this, of course, this extraordinary, unprecedented election of this individual to the presidency. I won't. The Honourable will forgive me because I think I'm now out of injury time. But the point I'm making is this is early days. We are beginning to see the necessity for a disciplined administration begin to crowd in on this president, and we will see how this develops. But it is incredibly important that our Prime Minister has secured the first voice into the White House of a foreign leader. Now, the truth is, we need to calm this debate. And we need to take the hype out of it. And I don't just mean the debate in this chamber, but frankly the national debate. The invitation has been issued. I don't think it should or could be properly rescinded. And so there is the possibility that the invitation will be taken up in the course of this year. I think that would be a mistake. I think we need to point out that in 2020, we are going to have the 400th anniversary of one of the most remarkable events in British American history, which is the Pilgrim Fathers. Incredibly important in the United States, and it would be an utterly appropriate moment to be marked by a state visit to the United Kingdom by whoever is the head of the American state at the time. And so I think we should focus the administration's attention on that opportunity. A head of government visit this year would be entirely appropriate, because if we don't take the hype and the out of this debate with all the people who signed this petition, there is every possibility that, of course, this visit is then going to become a rallying point for everybody who is unhappy with